Number 11. Ford Falcon. Without this car, the Mustang probably never exists. In the fall of 1959, three American manufacturers simultaneously introduced domestic compact cars: the Ford Falcon, the Chevrolet Corvair, and the Plymouth Valiant. The Falcon outsold both in its first year, 417,174 units in 1960 alone, and confirmed that American buyers wanted a small, conventional car with a front-mounted engine, a manual or automatic transmission, and a price below $2,000. The Corvair's rear engine was technically interesting. The Falcon's front engine was what the market chose. The Falcon's platform became one of the most significant in American automotive history. The Mustang, introduced in 1964, used a modified version of the Falcon's floor pan, suspension geometry, and drivetrain. The car that generated more cultural impact than any other vehicle of the decade was built on the bones of the compact that Ford had rushed to market to compete with the Volkswagen Beetle. Between 1960 and 1965, Falcon production exceeded 1.3 million units. The Falcon is at number 11 because its first year set the record for American compact car launches, its platform produced the Mustang, and it was the definitive American answer to the question the Volkswagen Beetle had been raising since 1950. Number 10. Plymouth Valiant. Chrysler built one of the toughest engines of the decade. Almost nobody talks about it. The Plymouth Valiant debuted on October 29, 1959 at the Los Angeles Auto Show, the same autumn as the Ford Falcon and the Chevrolet Corvair. Chrysler's engineers had developed the Slant 6 specifically for the Valiant, inclining the block 30 degrees to reduce hood height and lower the center of gravity in the compact's narrower engine bay. The Valiant's first-year production reached 194,292 units in 1960 alone, establishing it as a credible competitor in the segment the Falcon was simultaneously dominating. Through the decade's first half, the Valiant served as the compact Plymouth that American families chose when they needed a smaller, more economical car than the Fury without leaving the Chrysler dealer network. Its A-body platform was shared with the Dodge Dart, meaning parts, dealers, and mechanics could service both. Its commuting durability record matched the Dart's, the same engine, the same basic architecture, and the same dealer network behind it. The Valiant is at number 10 because it delivered the Slant 6's documented durability across the entire decade, and the A-body platform it introduced gave Chrysler the compact architecture it relied on into the next decade. Number 9. Pontiac Catalina. Everyone remembers the GTO. Almost nobody remembers the car that actually paid Pontiac's bills. The Pontiac Catalina was the car that kept Pontiac's sales volumes intact, while the GTO and the Bonneville generated the advertising copy and the magazine covers. The Catalina was the entry-level Pontiac full-size, the car positioned below the Star Chief and the Bonneville in the lineup, priced at a point that the professional family could reach without the Bonneville's premium, and built on the same B-body platform that the Chevrolet Impala used. Most American buyers who chose a Pontiac in the 1960s chose the Catalina. Through the decade, Catalina production regularly exceeded 200,000 units annually, making it one of the highest-volume Pontiac nameplates in the brand's history. It was the Pontiac that sat in suburban driveways across the country, that appeared in school parking lots as the preferred teacher's car, and that police departments ordered in pursuit-rated configurations alongside the Dodge Monaco and the Plymouth Fury. The Catalina is at number 9 because its position in the Pontiac lineup, affordable, full-size, V8 powered through every Pontiac dealer, made it the brand's volume leader and the car most Americans associated with Pontiac before the GTO arrived.
Number 8. Plymouth Fury. Stephen King made this car famous. He got the year wrong. The Plymouth Fury that most Americans drove in the 1960s was not the two-door hardtop that Stephen King assigned to his 1983 novel. That was a 1958 model year car. The 1960s Fury was the full-size C-body Plymouth that American families, police departments, and taxi operators chose across the decade when they needed Chrysler's largest platform at Plymouth's price. In 1964, Plymouth redesigned the Fury into one of the most visually balanced full-size cars the company had produced, and the buying public confirmed the assessment with purchases that placed the Fury consistently among the decade's top-selling full-size cars. The Fury's combination of C-body interior volume, V8 engine options from the 318 to the 440, and Plymouth's dealer network made it the obvious choice for families that needed to transport 6 passengers on long drives without the car feeling like an imposition. Police agencies across the country bought pursuit-rated Fury Sport configurations with the high-output V8, making the car a visible presence on American highways well beyond its private sales volume. The Fury is at number 8 because it was Plymouth's full-size at its most commercially coherent, built for what the decade actually required. Number 7. Ford Galaxy. If Chevrolet had never built the Impala, this would have been America's best-selling car. Ford sold the Galaxy throughout the 1960s in numbers that would have made it the best-selling car in America in any decade in which the Impala did not exist. The Galaxy was Ford's full-size answer to the Impala. Same segment, same price point, same configuration of bench seats and V8 engine and large interior, and it competed for the same buyer across every model year of the decade. The Galaxy 500 and the LTD variants gave Ford's full-size lineup the visual distinction that the base Galaxy's more restrained styling did not, and the NASCAR success of the Galaxy's high-output 427 gave the nameplate performance credibility that translated to showroom traffic even among buyers who never came close to using it. Annual Galaxy production regularly exceeded 400,000 units through the decade's peak years, placing it as the second best-selling full-size American car throughout the decade. The buyer who chose a Galaxy over an Impala made a statistically uncommon decision. The Impala outsold it every year, but not an irrational one. The Galaxy is at number 7 because its volume confirms it was in enough American driveways to define what a Ford full-size meant. Number 6. Dodge Dart. If you wanted a taxi that refused to die, this was the one. The Dodge Dart that Americans drove in the 1960s was not the bloated full-size car that had worn the Dart nameplate in 1960, 1961, and 1962. When Chrysler reassigned the Dart nameplate to a new compact body for 1963, the car that emerged was a properly sized, properly priced A-body compact with the 170 and 225 cubic inch slant-6 engines that Chrysler's engineers had developed with a durability margin that the decade's mechanics documented in the specific language of professional admiration. The slant-6's 30-degree inclination was an engineering decision with practical consequences: lower center of gravity, improved breathing, and an oil distribution geometry that the engine's longevity record confirmed is correct. Dart production in the 1963 to 1969 generation exceeded 2 million units. Every American city had dozens in taxi fleets, and the buyer who chose one on price and kept it on durability told their neighbor unprompted. The Dart is at number 6 because it gave the A-body platform its definitive commercial success and gave the American compact buyer a slant-6 whose longevity exceeded any comparable domestic engine.
Number 5. Chevrolet Nova, Chevy 2. GM built this entire car in only 18 months. Somehow, it worked. The Chevy 2 was built as a conventional engineering response to the Ford Falcon, a front-engine compact with a straightforward inline-4 or inline-6 and nothing technically unconventional in any system. Developed in 18 months on a timeline that reflected the urgency of competitive response rather than deliberate product planning. The Nova trim level within the Chevy 2 lineup gave buyers the appearance of a finished product rather than an emergency one, and the market received it accordingly. By 1964, Chevrolet had added a 283 cubic inch small block V8 option to the Chevy 2 lineup, the same engine that American buyers already associated with Impala and Bel Air durability. The nameplate consolidation around the Nova designation through the decade's second half reflected what the sales data had been confirming. Buyers chose the Nova trim, and the Chevy 2 designation served primarily as the manufacturing platform description. Annual sales through the decade regularly reached 250,000 units. The Nova and Chevy 2 are at number 5 because what GM built in 18 months became one of the most purchased domestic compacts in the market. Number 4. Volkswagen Beetle. Americans laughed at this little German economy car. Then it quietly conquered America. The Volkswagen Beetle occupied the rear-engine, rear-wheel drive, air-cooled configuration that American buyers in the 1950s had been told was eccentric and impractical, and by the early 1960s, it had become the best-selling import in American history. Its heating system, which operated on exhaust heat exchangers rather than a conventional water-cooled system, produced warmth in the passenger compartment that Midwest owners evaluated as inadequate in sustained cold. The roof leaked on early hardtops. The spare tire lived in the front, where American buyers expected to find an engine. None of these objections slowed the American Beetle's trajectory. By 1968, Volkswagen was selling 423,008 Beetles annually in the United States, a volume that domestic compact competitors had not anticipated when the decade began. The Beetle's consistent styling year to year made it the car of choice for buyers who considered Detroit's annual model changes engineering theater rather than genuine improvement. The Beetle is at number 4 because its American presence was built on the gap between what buyers needed and what American manufacturers had been willing to provide. Number 3. Chevrolet Chevelle Malibu. Chevrolet wasn't trying to build a legend. It accidentally built the family car that defined the second half of the decade. 387,119 buyers in 1964, the first-year model. American families had needed a mid-size car that sat between the Chevy 2's compact dimensions and the Impala's full-size fuel consumption and parking footprint. And when Chevrolet provided one, the market responded with an urgency that the first-year total confirmed. By 1969, Chevrolet was marketing the Chevelle as America's most popular mid-size car, a claim the decade's sales figures supported. The Malibu trim level within the Chevelle lineup was the configuration that most retail buyers chose, above the base 300 series in interior finish and visual presence, below the SS in price and insurance implications. It was the car in the family's driveway when the family had decided that a compact was slightly too small and a full-size was more than the situation required. The station wagon variant gave the family with cargo requirements a mid-size option that the Chevy 2's smaller interior could not accommodate. The Chevelle and Malibu are at number 3 because that first-year volume established the mid-size market's depth, and 6 years that followed confirmed it had been demand, not enthusiasm.
Number 2. Ford Mustang. Almost nobody bought the Mustang you probably pictured today. Most Americans bought the slow one. The Ford Mustang sold 1 million units in its first 24 months of production. The buyers who accounted for the majority of that million bought the base inline-6 configuration, the $2,368 pony car that produced 101 horsepower from a 170 cubic inch 6-cylinder, and that Carroll Shelby had no involvement with whatsoever. The Mustang's cultural identity, built on the high-output V8 options and the racing heritage that Ford's marketing team documented exhaustively, was carried by a car that most of its buyers ordered with automatic transmissions and without performance packages. This was not a failure of the Mustang's formula. It was the formula. Ford had designed a car whose styling communicated sportiness at a price that the secretary, the recent graduate, and the family with a second car budget could afford,
and whose option structure allowed the buyer who actually wanted performance to find it without compromising the base car's accessibility. In 1966, Mustang production reached 607,568 units. The Mustang is at number 2 because 1 million in 2 years is the record the decade produced once, set by an everyday driver that happened to look like something more. Number 1. Chevrolet Impala. 1,074,925. That is how many Chevrolet Impalas America bought in 1965 alone. The most purchased passenger car in a single model year in American automotive history was not a Japanese import, not a truck, and not a crossover. It was the 1965 Chevrolet Impala, 1,074,925 units, a record that has not been matched since. The Impala led American car sales in 1961, 1964, 1965, 1966, and 1967. In the years it did not lead, it finished second. No other nameplate was more consistently present in more American driveways across more years of the decade. The Impala's position at the top of the standard Chevrolet lineup, above the Biscayne and the Bel Air, below the Caprice after 1965, placed it at the specific price point where the working and middle-class family's aspiration and its budget most consistently intersected. Not the most affordable and not the most luxurious, the one the American buyer chose when choosing the best car they could reasonably justify. Its 327, 396, and 427 cubic-inch V8 options gave it performance credibility, and its pillarless hardtop gave it the visual argument for the driveway. The Impala is at number 1 because 1,074,925 in 1965 is the permanent, documented answer.